Alright, 6 episodes in and I can finally get to the format I wanted to do all along. It's a night of debuts for Steven Spielberg's Amazing Stories, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and then later it's the second installment of The Twilight Zone. First up, Amazing Stories, which debuted Sunday, September 29th, 1985, at 8 p.m. on NBC. The Steven Spielberg-produced series was shrouded in secrecy, much like many of his projects at the time, but seemed to promise the potential of Spielberg-esque adventures each week in bite-sized half-hour chunks. And it sure seemed like that potential was going to be realized with the Spielberg-directed pilot Ghost Train, at first glance anyway. It's the tale of a family who just built a new house and are moving Grandpa in with them, until Grandpa realizes the new house is on the exact spot where a deadly train accident occurred during his youth. There's more to it than that, though. Grandpa, in fact, caused the train derailment, which resulted in the deaths of everyone on board, and now he's convinced that the train will be returning that night to pick him up once and for all. Not out of revenge or anything like that, though. This isn't a vengeful ghost train. Grandpa just believes that his time has arrived, and his method of transit that'll take him from this world is the ghost train. He even still has his ticket from the original incident. It's all very whimsical and nice and makes death seem like a fun adventure instead of the horrible nightmare it actually is. The problem here is that this is a half-baked idea. All the Spielberg style is there, and Lucas Haas is a pretty good Spielberg kid, awkward and messing around with everything on the set in a natural kid way, but the story just isn't fleshed out. Why is this happening? Why is everyone okay with it? Time for Grandpa to die, fine, but after one day with the family? I get that he was supposed to die in the original crash and instead everyone on the train did, but how does this make up for it? Now they're all dead. This is like the most pleasant installment of Final Destination. I could understand if he died to save the family or to reverse history so that everyone in the train lived, but no. Everyone on the train is dead and now he is too. And the family's house is totally destroyed with no credible way to file an insurance claim. Amazing? Paired up with Amazing Stories on Sunday nights was the reboot of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and the proper debut for this series features a remake of the first story told in the original show. It's called Revenge, and I didn't quite remember which episode this was until about halfway through, when the twist ending suddenly came back to me and I immediately went into the fetal position. Here's the story. A woman with what appears to be some severe mental issues or past trauma of some kind is being persuaded by her husband to start re-entering society. She reluctantly does, eventually taking a dance class that she very much enjoys, and I have no idea how Susudio survived into later reruns without being replaced with something generic. Anyway, she's had a most excellent day, and then she comes home, where an intruder attacks and rapes her. The husband is furious, and of course the cops are all, yeah, well, what can you do, you know? It's not like we're cops or anything.
Look, I'm gonna level with you. I turn in this report, what do we have to go on? I was burglarized myself just last week. Got fingerprints and everything. Think we're gonna catch the guy? Not on your life.
Luckily, as they're driving home from the hospital, she sees her attacker walking down the street. The husband stops the car, follows him, and murders him. He returns to the car and they resume their journey home, until she points out another man saying he was the one who attacked her.
That's him. That's him. That's him, John. That's him. There he is. That's him. John, that's him. That's him. That's him. There he is. That's him.
I suppose this is a cautionary tale about the evils of vigilante justice, but still, this is icky. And seriously, what was NBC thinking with this family-friendly 8 p.m. primetime lineup on a Sunday night?
Tonight at 8 p.m., a kid's grandpa becomes a dead passenger on a ghost train that destroys their home. Then at 8:30, a lady gets raped. Be there.
The director of this episode, someone by the name of R.E. Young, has exactly one credit, this. Whoever this person is, they never worked on anything. I wonder if it's a pseudonym for someone, because it's really strange to get a job with zero body of work to direct the premiere of a major network TV show and then never do anything else ever. These two shows went up against the debut of MacGyver on ABC and Murder, She Wrote on CBS, the latter of which would routinely win the time slot over the next year, resulting in some unfortunate scheduling changes that I'll touch on later in this series. But let's fast forward later that week to Friday when the second episode of The Twilight Zone aired. This one features 3 stories. The first is called Wordplay, written by Farscape and Alienation creator Rockne S. O'Bannon, and again directed by Wes Craven. It stars Robert Klein as a medical supply salesman who starts hearing people replace ordinary words with nonsense. He believes it to be an elaborate prank of some kind, but it keeps escalating to the point where he can no longer understand anything anyone is saying.
Behind the fine, you capital.
And nonsense or not, Hinge Thunder is a pretty terrific name. He doesn't have too long to worry about this though, because his son falls ill, and he has to deal with that. Eventually, he accepts his fate, attempting to relearn how to communicate via his child's books. An interesting tale, but also quite baffling. He never goes to see a doctor or anything, he just accepts that his brain is broken as he flips through his kid's library. I mean, he's clearly had a stroke or something. There are themes to be explored further here, but no, it's just a lot of effect with very little cause and zero resolution. Not bad, just a little frustrating. Comedian Robert Klein does good work here in a serious role. The commentary track for Wordplay features Wes Craven and showrunner Phil DeGuerre. They note that O'Bannon basically just wrote this on spec and ended up with a story editor position on the series as a result. Also, as Craven talks about his body of work leading up to his work on The Twilight Zone, he thinks he's only directed 3 films, when in fact he's directed 9. That's odd. A few minutes later, he corrects himself as he realizes he'd completely forgotten some of them. Like Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing! Damn, dude! Dreams for Sale is up next, and it's the first example of this show trying to do too much within its hour time frame. This episode only runs 9 minutes and really suffers a bit as a result. Couldn't the other 2 stories this week have gotten an additional 4.5 minutes and we expand on this one later? Anyway, it features the always fetching Meg Foster having a picnic with her family, but things start glitching out via some rather nifty and unsettling effects for 1985. Yep, guess what? She's actually in the future, and this is Total Recall. The picnic dream broke her brain, and she dies in the system. Again, kinda neat, but 9 minutes just isn't enough time for this story. Tommy Lee Wallace directed this one, and sadly there's no commentary track for it. But honestly, it would be over before any significant information could be given. Our final story for the night is Chameleon, which is the story of an alien life form that stows away on the space shuttle and returns to Earth, taking the form of various NASA crew members and pieces of equipment.
Chief!
This is Tyson, ID 6-478. I am declaring a code F, as in Frank, emergency.
Terry O'Quinn, still apparently working at NASA after the space camp debacle, tries to figure the whole thing out. Lin Shaye pops up as one of the alien's disguises, and then things escalate quickly from there as the alien goes for broke and takes on the form of an atomic bomb, which O'Quinn has to talk out of detonating. Chameleon does have a commentary track with director Craven, DeGuerre, and writer James Crocker. Why wasn't he on the Peace and Quiet commentary, damn it? Anyway, they tell stories about the difficulty with using NASA stock footage and their logos, as NASA went back and forth on giving them permission to use their stuff. Also, it's amusing to hear them talk about Terry O'Quinn currently having a recurring role on Alias. Chameleon is an okay story that ultimately doesn't go anywhere, but that's fine, it's still fairly entertaining. Honestly though, I'm not sure I remember these 3 Twilight Zone stories. Maybe we went to the movies that night. It was the day Commando opened in theaters, and I would have been all about that. Anyway, that's it for this week, but don't change that channel because coming up next is a very short-lived and quite uneventful series from the late 90s. Sounds like fun, doesn't it? Stay tuned.
Well, she wants to be the queen, and she thinks about her owns alligators. Mama works on carburetors.